Discover the incredible story of how America unveiled the life-changing fall of a hidden terrorist, in the heart of a quiet Midwestern town, where the sun baked the pavement and laughter flowed alongside the local creek. Jake Thompson was a name that echoed warmth and reliability. For over 2 decades, Jake had been the soul of Thompson's garage, where he fixed up cars and, more importantly, patched up the community itself. The son of a Vietnam veteran, he was no stranger to hard work and sacrifice, sharing big hugs and even bigger smiles with everyone who crossed his path. Weekends found him teaching the youth at the community center or lending a hand to any neighbor in need. His kindness was unmatched, but the town had begun to shift in alarming ways. Recently, whispers of mischief slithered through the streets: vandalism at the park, property damaged in the dead of night, and ominous rumors about a local group sowing seeds of fear only a few blocks away. This unsettling undercurrent tightened Jake's chest, but he remained blissfully unaware as he twisted wrenches in his garage, forging camaraderie with the mechanical creations he tended to. He noticed his best friend, Amir, had grown more withdrawn, anxiety knitting his brow. The shadows of doubt began pinching at Jake, gnawing at the edge of his once clear view of their friendship. Amir was family to Jake, a fellow worker, and a loyal friend, always ready with a helping hand or a hearty laugh. Yet, as news reports emerged connecting Amir's community to troubling groups, Jake felt the ground beneath his values quaking. Would he safeguard his family's peace or defend his friend? As the investigation deepened and trust fractured, it felt like the very fabric of their neighborly warmth was unraveling. Jake's chest tightened at the thought of betrayal, his mind a flurry of conflict and sleepless nights. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One restless evening, Jake finally sat down with Amir, determined to confront the man he thought he knew. Their conversation began with hesitation, an air thick with unspoken fears. But as Amir shared his story of a normal family burdened by mistakes from a past life, it struck Jake hard. The fear he'd carried morphed into empathy. The world around them was indeed clouded by prejudices, which festered without understanding. Realizing that Amir wasn't the enemy but a man trying to navigate troubled waters shattered Jake's heart and rebuilt his trust in a single gaze. The conversation released a tension that filled Jake's chest. He saw Amir, not as a shadow of doubt, but as a victim of circumstance. They were both left wondering how they could reclaim their village stripped of unity. Just when clarity seemed to dawn, chaos erupted. A destructive act fueled by fear shook their community to its core, putting them at a point of no return. Jake faced the hardest choice yet. Could he stand by Amir, risking everything he worked for, or shield his family from an uncertain future? The stakes were higher than ever, and the choice he faced could change their lives forever. The sun dipped low, casting a crimson hue over Jake's garage. Inside, he felt adrift, wading through the tension that now hung over him like a heavy fog. The once familiar tasks of fixing engines and tinkering with gearboxes felt oddly out of reach. Today, the tools remained untouched as he wrestled with the aftermath of his conversation with Amir. Each moment played back in his mind, like a film loop he couldn't escape. How could he consider distancing himself from Amir? For 2 decades, they'd built a bond thicker than blood. Yet, the fear bubbling in the community tugged at him, making him question the very tapestry of their lives. He feared what friends, neighbors, and clients would think if they knew he stood beside someone branded with suspicion. Each knock on the garage door now felt like a judgment waiting to fall. Later that evening, he found himself at the community park, the air thick with unease. Families that once strolled happily under the golden glow were now hesitant, fraught with worry. Jake watched as children played, their shouts of joy seeping through the heaviness. But laughter could only mask fear for so long. He noticed groups gathered in hushed tones, exchanging wary glances, whispers riding the breeze, echoes of a town transforming into a battleground of uncertainty. One voice broke through the chatter, calling for unity and understanding. It was Nora, the school principal, her face set in a tough demeanor, yet her eyes reflected vulnerability. "We cannot allow the actions of a few to define our community," she said, her voice firm but shaky. As she spoke, Jake felt an urge to rise with her words. He, too, had witnessed how rumors seeped through like poison. Instinctively, his heart sensed the danger of division. It wasn't just Amir at risk, it was everyone. Still, doubts clawed at him. What if Amir's past haunted their community? Would standing by him only pull Jake into the whirlwind? Fear twisted in his stomach, but alongside it grew an unexpected ally: hope. Hope that people could change, that friendships could withstand adversity. Yet the path was shrouded in obstacles. The following morning, the first chilling news report broke across the airwaves: another act of vandalism had occurred overnight, escalating fears to new heights. The town hall buzzed with disparate voices as citizens demanded answers, their frustrations rising like smoke. Jake stepped in, heart racing. He needed to be part of the solution. Amir isn't just a friend, he's family, and we need to support him rather than push him away, Jake declared, his voice cutting through the chaos. Silence ensued, as all eyes turned to him. A collective breath held. Some faces wore disbelief, others flickered with recognition. But there it was, a spark of unity. "Can't you see that this fear divides us?" he continued, pushing back against the tide of apprehension. "If we don't come together now, we'll lose everything that makes us who we are." The weight of his words settled. To stand by Amir could risk everything he had built, yet staying silent could cost him more. As the crowd murmured, the tension shifted, and he knew the battle was only just beginning. Backed into a corner, Jake now faced not only a community in turmoil but his own choices that could lead to either reconciliation or despair. What would happen next? Would the town embrace Amir, or shun him forever? Jake waited, heart in throat, ready to confront whatever storm awaited him. The bonds of friendship and trust had been stretched thin, and he could only hope they wouldn't snap. Jake stood at the crossroads of uncertainty, his heart pounding as the murmurs of the crowd washed over him. Every gesture, every whisper seemed laden with unspoken judgments. He spotted familiar faces, some twisted with disbelief, while others appeared contemplative. Would they hear his plea? Would they once again see a community instead of adversaries? A few moments passed, stretching like an elastic band ready to snap. Then, like a wave breaking against the shore, one voice broke through the fog. It was Molly, a single mother who had known Amir since high school. "Jake's right," she said softly at first, her confidence building with each word. "We can't let a few bad actions make us turn on each other. This town has always been about support." Faces began shifting, nodding slowly as the weight of her message sank in. Jake felt a flicker of hope igniting in his chest, a fragile flame. Just maybe, they could find common ground. "Amir has always been there for us," he reminded them, "just like we stood by one another through thick and thin. He deserves the same chance." The crowd stirred, and Jake caught sight of Amir standing just outside the gathering, his shoulders slumped, eyes darting between the people he once considered friends. The shame etched across Amir's face twisted Jake's heart. Without thinking, Jake stepped back, motioning for Amir to join him. "Stand with me," he called. With hesitant steps, Amir approached. Silence fell over the crowd like a heavy blanket. Jake reached for his friend, placing a hand on his shoulder. "This is family," he declared, looking around the assembled townsfolk, searching for connection in their eyes. Just then, a voice from the back spoke up. "What if he is guilty, though?" It was Dan, the local mechanic who had once shared beers with Jake after work. "How can we trust him?" The question hung in the air, heavy and charged. Fear shot through Jake, but he met Dan's gaze, searching for a glimmer of understanding. "What if he is not?" Jake countered, intensity rising. What if we look back and realize we let fear dictate our actions? We're not a community of fear. We're a family. Muffled conversations erupted again, this time with a different energy, curiosity mixed with uncertainty. Jake steadied himself. I've known Amir for more than 20 years. He's a part of who we are. Let us give him that chance, just like we want for ourselves. As the crowd absorbed his plea, Jake's breath quickened. He could feel the pulse of shared memories, laughter overlapping with moments of resolve, and something else there, nestled in uncertainty, was a growing resolve. Before he could process it further, Nora stepped up beside him, her presence anchoring the moment. Let us open a dialogue, she said, her steady voice cutting through the lingering tension. If Amir is willing, let us invite him to share his side of the story. Can we really do that? Someone whispered, doubt still evident. Yes. Jake responded, his voice surging with newfound conviction. Let us face it together, as a community. We owe it to Amir. We owe it to ourselves. Suddenly, a small child's voice broke through. Can we still play? The innocence of youth drew smiles from the adults, a reminder of simpler joys. The laughter echoed like a tender thread weaving back into the fabric of their community. It was a small beginning. But in that moment, Jake felt the first roiling wave of division ease. Maybe they could come together. Maybe Amir could tell his truth, and they could heal, but as the night wore on, a shadow loomed larger. Not everyone was ready to listen. Jake felt the underlying current of dissent lurking beneath the surface. Who among them would turn away when the truths were unveiled? The path forward was fraught with challenges, and Jake knew the real test had only just begun. Would their community embrace the truth and each other, or would they unravel in fear once again? Jake clenched his fists, ready for whatever lay ahead, his journey just beginning. The weight of anticipation hung in the air as Amir hesitated, his gaze roaming across the crowd. Each face held its own story, its own judgments. It was as if he stood on the precipice of a chasm, uncertain if the leap would lead to acceptance or further division. Speak, Jake urged, his voice barely above a whisper but steady. He kept his hand firmly on Amir's shoulder, offering support, grounding himself in the moment. Slowly, Amir stepped forward, the hesitant shuffle of his shoes against the gravel echoing like distant drums announcing an impending storm. I don't know where to start, Amir stammered, his voice cracking under the pressure of so many watching. The crowd remained still, breaths held tight. Jake squeezed Amir's shoulder. Just tell them the truth, he encouraged gently. Amir swallowed hard, his eyes flickering with a mix of fear and determination. What happened that night? It wasn't what you think. His words tumbled out, fragile yet laced with urgency. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I've never harmed anyone. I've worked my whole life to build trust in this community. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the crowd, but Jake was already scanning their faces. Some steeled themselves, arms crossed defiantly, while others showed signs of softening, their brows furrowed, lips pursed, eyes wide with curiosity. Please, just listen. Amir raised his voice to cut through the noise. Something was happening that evening I didn't know about. I was meeting someone for help, only to find myself caught in a trap. I'm as much a victim of this situation as anyone else. I was trying to do good. A flicker of understanding sparked amongst some townsfolk as Amir spoke, but it didn't settle sweetly. Fear and scrutiny remained in abundance. The questions that lingered were thick and palpable. Dan stepped forward again, seeming to wrestle with an internal battle between fear and the potential for compassion. What did you try to do then? He called out, sharpness in his tone. What do you expect us to believe? Jake sensed Amir's tension soaring. He's trying to keep us safe. He interjected quickly, stepping forward so he stood side by side with Amir. He didn't mean for any of this. He deserves a chance to explain, to be heard. Amir nodded vigorously, emboldened by Jake's words. That's all I ask. Let me share my truth with you. I want to bring justice to those who engaged us. I want to clear my name. The crowd shifted again, the currents of belief and doubt colliding in the air. For every hopeful face, there was another that seemed resolutely stubborn. Can we face this together? Nora spoke again, her voice a calming balm. But it has to start with trust. Amir, what can we do as a community to help you prove this? Amir's eyes widened, the spark of hope twinkling once more. I need your support. I need us to gather information. Talk to your friends, your neighbors. Be vigilant. Someone out there knows what really happened. A soft murmur of agreement began to rise, a sign that perhaps they were starting to listen after all. But then, the laughter of the child from earlier pierced through the gathering once more, drawing attention back to innocence. When can we play? Laughter followed, a shared moment that broke the tension momentarily, but the disparity remained. Amir's shoulders seemed to lighten. The children, they're all that matters. We do this for them. Let us keep our community whole. As the crowd began to feel a shift, an uneasy truth lingered in the air. What if the very person they were trusting with their children's future had secrets they weren't prepared to face? Jake's heart raced anew. Unsure if they would fully support Amir, he stole a glance at the faces now softening, and a possibility began to bloom. But could Amir truly prove himself right? Could they unite behind him, or would buried fears of the past rise again to tear them apart once more? The unanswered questions loomed like a storm on the horizon, growing darker with each passing moment. Jake steadied himself for what was yet to come, feeling the pull of impending storms. How long could their fragile peace hold? The first rays of sun began to dip below the horizon, casting warm hues across the gathering. The air was thick with uncertainty, but the shift felt real. Amir's chest heaved, each breath a shaky reminder of the stakes that lay ahead. Would they believe him? I know this feels impossible, Amir continued, his voice steadier now, bolstered by the reassurance from Jake and Nora. But we can't let fear drive us apart. We have to stand together. For the truth. The crowd buzzed with whispers, slicing through the heavy quiet. Amir turned to catch Jake's eye, finding strength in his unwavering gaze. Jake nodded slightly, a silent promise to remain at Amir's side through whatever storm awaited. Dan stepped forward again, brow furrowed, the tension in his body betraying his desire to believe. Okay, but we need anything to go on. Who were you meeting? Why didn't you come to us sooner? Unease crept back into Amir's heart. Would they trust him enough to understand? It was a simple meeting to discuss community resources, something I've done many times before. But that night, it was a setup. Someone is trying to manipulate the fear in our town. A few faces reflected empathy. Others remained skeptical, rigorously shaking their heads. Amid the murmur, Amir could hear a child's laugh, bright yet distant, a stark contrast to the heavy adult conversations. Amir, Nora called out, eyes shimmering as she spoke, if we can form a group, something more than just talk, could you lead us? Help us understand? Amir hesitated, wrestling with the enormity of what she was asking. Could he be the leader they needed? Yes. If you're willing to help me dig into this, I'll do everything I can to keep everyone safe and informed. A ripple of agreement flowed through the crowd. Some heads nodded, others exchanged glances, wondering whether this was the beginning of change. Jake felt his heart surge with hope. But beneath it all, doubts still churned like storm clouds. What if Amir was wrong? What if this moment of unity splintered in the face of old fears? Amir raised his arms, trying to capture their focus. Let us set up a meeting tomorrow, right here. We'll share what we learn, support one another. And if anyone hears something, no matter how small, we need to know. The air shifted again, the crowds dismissing their reservations just a little more. A feeling of camaraderie began to weave its way through the assembly, like the delicate threads of a spider's web being spun in the dawn light. But would it hold against the upcoming storm? The enthusiasm started to defiantly glow, and between Amir's heart-pounding and Jake's hopeful eyes, there was the slightest shift. Yet still, an underlying tension hummed among them. Then a voice broke through, the same child from earlier, with innocence painted in excitement. "Can we have snacks tonight?" That laughter erupted again, a brief reprieve from the brewing tension, but Amir felt the chill of uncertainty settle back in. "Together," Amir murmured under his breath. "We must stay together." As the crowd began to disperse, shadows creeping from the edges of town, Amir caught sight of a figure watching from a distance. They concealed themselves among the trees, expression unreadable. Jake noticed, too, tension constricting around Amir like a tightening vice. "Who is that?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "Do you know?" The figure vanished into the shadows, leaving only questions that loomed larger than before. In that fleeting moment, the sense of safety they had built began to unravel into something darker, a truth waiting at the edge of understanding. What were they really up against? As hope danced among the crowd, Amir's resolve hardened. The next day loomed with both promise and peril. Would they be ready to confront whatever secrets lay hidden? The dawn broke over the town, its orange glow casting long shadows and revealing the remnants of their gathering. Amir stood still for a moment, pondering. The figure he had seen, lurking among the trees, echoed in his mind like a stubborn whisper. The familiarity of dread stirred again in his chest. Who were they? And more importantly, what did they want? Jake approached, concern creasing his brow. "You all right?" he asked, his voice low, almost lost in the chirping of morning birds. Amir sighed, the weight of the unknown resting heavily on his shoulders. "I'm just worried about what might be out there. Those whispers in the dark, they don't just vanish. Do you think this is bigger than we thought?" Jake's eyes narrowed, reflecting a fierce determination. "I wish I could say otherwise. But it feels like we're standing at the edge of something dangerous," Amir confessed. Together, they began walking back toward town, their feet crunching over scattered leaves. As they passed familiar landmarks, nothing felt the same. The bakery on the corner, usually bustling with laughter and sweet scents, now seemed merely a facade of normalcy. "Maybe we will find answers in today's meeting," Jake suggested, attempting to anchor Amir's spiraling thoughts. "Maybe," Amir replied, unsure. The first members of the community trickled in as the sun fully emerged. Nora was the first to arrive, her usually bright demeanor dimmed slightly. "Amir, I've been thinking," she began, hesitantly. "What if someone really is manipulating us? What if that fear leads us to turn on each other?" The thought hit Amir like a cold gust of wind. "I know," he whispered. "That's why we must be careful. We have to keep each other close." With a small group gathered, they managed to form a loose circle, each face reflecting a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Amir felt the familiar rumble of anxiety in his stomach. "Thank you for coming. I know it's risky, but we need to be open. If we don't share what we know, we lose the only thing that keeps us safe, each other." He noticed Dan, who had been skeptical the previous night, nodding now. "I've heard some things," he admitted slowly, his voice slightly shaky. "Whispers about strange figures, cars parked late at night near the old factory." The crowd shifted slightly, but the fear remained palpable. Amir's heart raced. This was exactly what he feared. "We need to take action, prepare ourselves," Amir urged. "We can't let our community fall apart before we even know what we're up against." Nora stepped forward. "If we gather information and share everything, we can build defenses, help each other. Strength in unity, right?" "Yes. We need to communicate." Amir felt the spark of purpose reigniting. "Let us designate a couple of people from different neighborhoods to act as our messengers. If anything strange happens, we need to report it immediately." Agreeing murmurs swept through the crowd. The enthusiasm began to build again, but Amir could see cracks in their resolve. Old fears still lurked, undermining their courage. Now, about the snacks, the child chimed in again, eyes sparkling. Laughter bubbled up unexpectedly, breaking the tension momentarily. Yet amid the laughter, Amir's eyes wandered again, scanning the periphery, searching for that shadow that watched them. But, he added, voice dropping as unease crawled back in, we need to keep vigilant. We can't afford to be complacent. As the meeting progressed, plans were made and tasks assigned, but time slipped by faster than Amir expected. As the sun began its descent again, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Just as they thought the meeting was wrapping up, a distant sound cut through the air, a low, rumbling engine. Everyone turned, a collective breath held as they strained to see the road. What if it's them? Jake whispered, eyes wide. The sound grew louder as a dark van turned the corner, slowly approaching. The air thickened with apprehension. Amir felt his heart race. Who was in that van? What were they trying to hide? As the vehicle stopped just short of their gathering, the last remnants of sunlight glinted off its surface, and the doors creaked open. A figure clad in shadow stepped out, face obscured, and Amir's heart sank. We've come to talk, they said, voice smooth yet cold. And you may want to listen. What did they want? Amir's heart thudded in his chest like a war drum. The figure's shadow stretched long across the pavement, a stark contrast to the fading light. He noticed the tension rippling through the crowd, each person's eyes locked onto the stranger, searching for answers in the obscurity of their appearance. Who are you? Nora challenged, stepping forward bravely. Her voice quaked, but determination glinted in her eyes. The figure paused, shrouded in mystery. You'll know soon enough, they replied, their tone as smooth as melted ice. But first, you need to understand that what you fear, it's very real. Shocked murmurs cascaded through the gathered community. Amir felt a mix of anticipation and dread. What kind of game was this? Listen, the stranger continued, glancing over the crowd. You're in greater danger than you realize. The phantoms you see, they want to create chaos. Fear is their weapon. Enough riddles. Just say it, Jake shouted, his frustration bleeding into his voice. With a slight glimmer of amusement, the figure extended a hand, revealing a small device that flickered ominously in the dim light. This is what you need. It allows us to track their movements, to stay one step ahead. But you need to trust me. Why should we? Amir quickly protested, irritation bubbling within him. Trust was a fragile thing, the previous night's fears gnawed at him. Because whatever they plan doesn't just threaten you. It threatens everyone in this town. We're not your enemies. We're on the same side. Amir exchanged glances with Jake and Nora, uncertainty clouding their thoughts. Could they afford to trust this shadowy figure? What if they were playing right into a trap? We can't decide something this big on a whim, Amir said, keeping his voice steady. We need time to discuss. You can't expect us to just accept you. But time is what we don't have. The figure's voice rose, crackling with urgency. They are coming, and they will tear apart your community if you let fear control you. Look around, your people are already beginning to doubt one another. This is a war, and the first step is knowing your enemy. The crowd shifted uneasily, doubt gnawing at them. Amir felt the weight of his responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. He had called them together, promised them safety. But was there a chance this figure was their only shot at it? Wait, what do you know about these phantoms? Dan asked, pushing through the gathering. What are they capable of? The ones you see haunt the shadows, waiting for divisions to swell like the tide. Only together can you enact a force strong enough to push back. The figure's tone softened slightly. I want to take much more of your time. Do you want to fight? Or will you stand back and watch? Amir took a deep breath, feeling the stirrings of a storm within himself. This was a moment. A pivotal choice lay before them. Trust or abandon their hopes. Fear or action. "I need to know," Amir finally spoke, his voice breaking the silence. "Who sent you? Why should we believe anything you say?" "Because you want this nightmare to end." "I just happen to hold a key." A collective gasp echoed around them, the shadows of doubt mingling with the flame of curiosity. Amir's heart raced. "Show us that key," he demanded. "Show us proof." The figure remained still, contemplation hovering in the air as they weighed their next move. Behind them, the sound of a distant howl echoed, a chilling reminder that danger lurked just outside their fragile bubble of safety. "Time is ticking," the figure urged softly. "And you may not have another chance." As the shadows began to close in once again, Amir faced his community, teeth clenched, resolve hardening. What path would they choose? Could they rally together under the weight of fear, or would they fall into utter chaos? As the figure stepped back, shadowed by the deepening dusk, Amir felt the gnaw of uncertainty in his gut. And then he saw it, a flicker of movement in the trees beyond the gathering, the unmistakable outline of another watchful figure. What would happen if they chose to act? Would that figure step forward in support, or would they be the ones they feared? Amir's heartbeat echoed in his ears, drowning out the murmurs of the crowd. He could feel the unease bubbling, uncertainty hanging thick in the air like fog. The shadowy figure stood there, unyielding, eyes framed in the soft light that flickered from their ominous device. "Show us," Amir insisted, a fire igniting within him. "You want us to trust you, so give us something real. Don't just talk in riddles. What can this device do?" The figure hesitated, their gaze darting to the trees, the shadows dancing with the lowering sun. "It reveals more than you think. It can show you the phantom's true forms." "True forms?" Nora echoed, her skepticism shining through her courage. "And then what? We just turn the lights on and hope they disappear?" "Not exactly," the figure said, a hint of urgency creeping back into their voice. "But underestimating them will cost you dearly. They thrive in chaos. You have to understand, fear is their ally." Amir shot a glance at Jake, who was shifting from foot to foot, his indecision palpable. He could see the fear etched on everyone's faces, mirrored in their widening eyes. These were his friends, his neighbors, people he had fought with to keep hope alive in the community. They couldn't surrender to fear. "Listen," Amir said, raising his voice to pull everyone's attention. "We need a plan. We can't just stand here. If this device works, we should try it. We owe it to ourselves to push back." A quiet murmur of agreement rose from the crowd, growing in volume like the waves of a rising tide. All except for the hesitant faces of a few who still clung tightly to their doubts. Amir's chest tightened. He needed to rally them. "Those shadows have fed off our fears for too long. If what you say is true, we can't just sit here trembling." He turned back to the figure. "Are you with us? If we're going to fight this, we need to do it together." The figure stepped closer, their face becoming clearer in the dim light, revealing a steady determination. "Together, yes. But you must also see that every choice counts. You will face trials, betrayals. Your real enemies were the faces of your friends." An uneasy ripple moved through the crowd at that last revelation, glances exchanged, minds racing. Could they trust each other when trust felt so fragile? "What do we do?" Jake finally asked, tone edged with frustration. "Just point that thing at the shadows and hope they come out?" "Not hope," the figure stressed. "Aim for the heart of the fear. That's where the phantoms lie in wait. You will need to confront your own darkness before you stand together." Amir could feel the weight of those words, resonating with a truth he hadn't seen before. The darkness inside each of them might just be the key. Turning, he lifted the device from the figure's hand, feeling its cool surface against his skin. Then let us face that darkness. Together. A wave of agreement surged through the crowd, their voices rising in support. They stood together, united against the unknown. But Amir couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that something ominous still loomed. From the periphery, that flickering shape in the trees caught his eye again. Was the figure watching him? Would they help them? Remember, fear feeds on fear, the figure said quietly, voice low with warning. If you falter, the phantoms will sense it. Stand strong, or you'll become their prey. As night descended, Amir stood at the forefront, resolve carved into his face. They had taken the first step, but would their courage hold against the approaching darkness? Suddenly, the sound of rustling leaves echoed, followed by the haunting howl again, much closer this time. The shadows seemed deeper than before, twisting and curling like a living thing. Keep your heart steady, Amir shouted, adrenaline pushing him forward. No matter what comes next, we stand together. But just as he spoke, a figure cloaked in darkness emerged from the trees, a silhouette outlined by the fading light. Would they be a friend or another ghost in this war? The moment of truth was about to unfold. The figure stepped forward, its outline sharpening against the dimming light. Amir squinted, feeling a rush of adrenaline surge through him. Who was this? Friend? Foe? A specter conjured by their darkest fears? Stay back! Amir shouted, urgency coursing through his voice. He raised the device, ready to face whatever was coming. The crowd behind him took a collective breath, waiting, bracing for a confrontation. The figure halted, hands raised. I mean no harm. They spoke in a calm voice, but their words held a weight that sent ripples of tension through Amir's chest. He sensed the sincerity, yet doubt loomed in his mind like a shadow. Who are you? Amir demanded, struggling to keep his voice steady. What do you want? I'm here to help, the figure replied, stepping into the light enough for Amir to see their features, a face lined with worry, eyes bright with a fierce determination. I'm Alia. I knew you'd come. You're stronger than you think. Stronger than we think? Jake scoffed from behind Amir. If we're so strong, why are we still hiding from the shadows? Because the shadows can devour you if you let them, Alia articulated, her voice cutting through the doubt. But you're not hiding. You're standing here, facing them. That's already the first victory. Amir could feel the crowd shifting, their skepticism starting to crack. The desire for self-preservation fought against the burgeoning hope that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of their courage. Alia quickly continued, the device you hold, it has the ability to reveal what's behind the fear, the chaos. It's like a mirror, it can bring the truth into light. We know that. Nora interjected, the frustration evident in her tone. But we don't know how to use it. How are we supposed to face our darkness? By embracing it, Alia said simply, a small, fierce smile breaking through her serious demeanor. You must be willing to look within before you confront the phantoms. They will reflect your own fears right back at you. Only then can you gather your strength to fight. A hush fell over the crowd, Amir's mind racing. He had always thought of darkness as something to flee from, something to ignore. Could confronting it really be the key? Gather around, Amir said, his voice firm. Let us create a circle. We need to support each other through this. The group responded, a cautious, determined energy guiding them closer together. As they formed the circle, Alia gestured for Amir to point the device toward the shadows. Not just at any shadow, aim for the one that whispers to you, that keeps you awake at night. That's where the phantoms lie. The rustling leaves whispered ominously around them, and Amir's heart raced. The lingering chill seemed to seep deeper into his bones, yet he felt a collective heartbeat from those around him. On 3, Amir instructed, swallowing hard. 1, 2, 3. Together, they raised their eyes to the depth of the shadows, the device poised to reveal what lay hidden. A flicker of movement caught Amir's attention deep in the woods as the wind seemed to pause. Moments stretched, filled with breathless anticipation. What awaited them? Would they unearth only their fears or a chance to reclaim their lives? Suddenly, a chilling laugh echoed through the trees, each note spinning its way into their souls. Dark silhouettes began to swirl, taking shape, a monstrous embodiment of their communal fears. Amir's grip tightened on the device, uncertainty creeping back in. "Stay strong." Amir rallied, his voice cutting through the rising panic. "We have to confront this together." But as he turned back to the gathering shadows, he sensed a presence lurking even nearer, something older than fear, something that knew them all too well. Would embracing their darkness light the path to freedom, or would they find themselves lost forever? With their resolve tested and terror closing in, Amir gritted his teeth. The night had only just begun, and the answers were still lurking ahead. The air crackled with unspoken fears as shadows danced, twisting into forms that felt all too familiar. Amir stood at the forefront, the device trembling in his grip, heart racing as he caught the dark glimmers in the emerging shapes. The laughter echoed through the trees again, taunting them, feeding off their anxiety. But as those shadows loomed, a fire ignited within him. They would not be prey. "Remember," he articulated, voice steady as he faced his community, "this is our moment to be bold. We face these shadows together." The crowd, clad in consternation, shifted restlessly, but the words hung in the air, urging clarity. Jake's hand steadied on Amir's shoulder, adding strength to his resolve. Nora stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "We do this as a family. No more hiding." With a collective shift, they leaned into the light, the flickering glow from the device illuminating their faces with courage. The shadows seemed to flutter at the edges of the light, losing their menacing edge as the warmth seeped closer. Amir's pulse quickened. This was not mere bravado. This was hope. "Focus," Alia commanded, her voice a steady anchor in the tempest of uncertainty. "Look within. Whether it's doubts, insecurities, or fears, let us face it all." Amir pivoted, breathing deep, willing his own fears to the surface. The haunting image of betrayal, the longing to protect his family, and the painful weight of his friendship with Amir settled at the forefront of his thoughts. As he exhaled slowly, the shadows flickered in response, dancing chaotically but revealing their true forms, now not as terrifying monsters but reflections of the emotions swirling within him. "I see you," Amir shouted, unashamedly pulling his heart wide open. "I see what we've avoided." Together, as a chorus of voices began to resonate, others joined in. "We witness our fears," Nora cried, her voice buoyant. "We tackle our doubts." The crowd's collective energy surged, each member wrestling their own ghosts with words of affirmation and acceptance, shining light into corners once thought too dark to explore. The shadows shifted once more, quivering as though unsure how to respond. Recognition flashed in some faces, realization that they had always held the strength within them. Trust and vulnerability institutionalized in their hearts gave them a newfound solidity against the whispers of darkness. Amir let out a war cry, uniting the crowd, "Let us drive these phantoms away. We will not cower in fear." With that command, he raised the device higher, channeling the strength of the community, amplifying their light, a tangible force against the intangible fears. The shadows recoiled, breaking apart in frenzied shimmers as hope poured forth from the center of their circle. The warmth expanded, illuminating even the lurking edges of fear that had once felt inescapable. One shadow broke free, attempting to flee, but Amir's focus sharpened. "You're not leaving," he yelled resolutely. The air felt electric, and in that moment, he recognized its truth. Fear would always exist, but so too would courage. With an empowered stride, Amir responded, "You will not dictate our story. We choose to step into the light." As if in answer, the device flared, beaming truth that chased away the final remnants of darkness. The night air thickened, filled with possibilities, questions and answers, shadows and light. Faces of their community shone with clarity and acceptance. "Thank you." A voice rang out from the gathering, breaking into a smile. "Thank you for bringing us together. And with that simple acknowledgement, a ripple of gratitude spread through the crowd. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him as he wrapped an arm around Amir's shoulders. "We did this together." The hum of laughter and soft conversations began to fill the air, erasing the last remnants of unsettled fear, replaced by excitement and unity. Those fragile threads of division felt as if they were forged strong, woven tighter by their shared truth and renewed resilience. As dawn approached, golden light began to break over the horizon. The shapes in the woods melted away into nothingness, leaving behind not just hope but the promise of a community reborn. They had confronted their fears together. Amir took a deep breath, and felt the weight lift from his shoulders. Resolutely, he looked out at the dawn breaking. For the first time, the future seemed bright. "This isn't the end," he said, voice filled with warmth. "It's just the beginning." As the first rays of sunlight spilled over the town, the shadows faded into soft morning light, whispering of new life and renewed connections. This was their moment, a transformation grounded in understanding and love, a commitment to stand strong as a family against whatever lay ahead. The echoes of laughter submerged and filled the scene, laughter that blended into a resounding harmony. They were free now. What about you? Are you ready for your own transformation? If you want to keep following these incredible journeys, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss a moment. Hit that button. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and bring more powerful stories to life. Comment below with your reactions to this ending and what it means for you, and don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your action can spark change. Stand with us.